In today's video, we're going to look at Outnumbered Improbable Heroes from Genius Games. This is a cooperative tower defense style game where players get to combine their superhero forces using all manner of math to defend Megatropolis. So let's find out how this plays. I'm Leanne and I help parents have fun while they are teaching their kids the skills that they need. So if this is something that you are interested in, consider subscribing. This is a light family weight game, a legitimate casual tabletop board game. It happens that a large part of the core mechanics utilizes a subject skill that helps the kids, math. But this game never feels like the game is about math. In the box, you get a large quadfold board game with beautiful artwork on the front and back. 6 hero cards, 54 villain cards, 18 bonus power cards, 8 events, 5 barricades, 1 infinity generated truck, and 3 dice as well as the rulebook. In Outnumbered, players work together to protect Megatropolis from Absolute Zero and his minions who want to capture the infinity generated truck. Players have to take on the roles of superheroes with special powers to manipulate numbers. They can add or subtract from numbers, they can double values, they can flip the die to its opposite side, for example. To keep the villains at bay, players have to use a combination of values on 3 dice to meet those shown on the villain cards to defeat them. They can use addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, as well as squaring up in any order, but only using 1 die each. With these special powers to manipulate values, our superheroes of Megatropolis have to knock out the minions as they chase the infinity generated truck and advance towards the Atomics lab. After their turn, the infinity generated truck moves 1 space down. If the truck advances to a boom picture, the villains move 1 step forward. If the villains reach the last row at the bottom, they have breached Atomics Lab's defenses, and the next villain will be able to penetrate the stronghold and the heroes lose. Obviously, players have to manipulate the values of the 3 dice in any of the arithmetic functions they know, and the larger the villain values are, the more creative they have to be with which functions they use and start to have to rely on various kinds of multiplication. This is where even adults will have to put their heads together. The game is immersive because players take on different roles. Important discussion must be had and takes place amongst players to activate win-lose conditions. And it requires them to make strategic decisions that bear consequences in the game. Now, all the kids at our Gameschooling sessions have loved pretending to be in this world of superheroes and taking on those characters. I mean, even those that were not keen on being superheroes at the start could not be helped but be drawn into the story of saving the city. Their moves in the game and the math involved belie important decisions to save the city. The artwork, the terms, and the characters all lend themselves to being immersed in this world. The players get to suspend reality for a moment, including any apprehension to real-life superhero math skills needed in this game. They lose themselves in the gameplay, especially when they need to put an end to Absolute Zero. I like the way the math is presented to the players. Like I said, it's a tower defense game using math to defend. Because players are presented with an array of villains and their numbers, there are a number of strategies that can be employed at any one time. This requires players to think critically to figure out which villain is the most dangerous in its approach, when might players take out a villain that might actually be of benefit later, or might cause a problem if it activates an event card. What are the probabilities to taking out a villain later on in the game? And which bonus power cards are best used to their advantage? In doing all of that, Players do not just have one prescriptive equation to work on. Rather, they have to take it upon themselves to run through multiple equations and manipulations before they decide which is the best way forward. Now, that option always means they are doing more math, since they are creating choices for themselves. And as a teacher and a parent, it always works well when a game is also scalable and can be used differently across a number of age ranges and standards so that it remains replayable. What I didn't like so much, especially for bigger groups, are the dice rolls. Because dice rolls are instantaneous, there is not a whole lot of planning that can be done ahead of your turn while you're waiting. In order to circumvent this, we opted to use number cards instead. Players would draw cards at the end of their turn, and this would give them the opportunity to work out different ways during other players' turns, so that all the players could remain engaged. They could be either discussing with the current player or working on their own possible answers as well, which could then lead to some next level critical thinking. The option to plan a few turns ahead if they knew another later player could take down a villain with their cards, with their superhero powers, especially at superhero level. The rulebook also suggests a training mode for younger players. That is only using numbers from 1 to 10, no bonus powers, using 2 dice and no events, as well as keeping the villains in the center 3 lanes. We have kept to the spirit of training mode and have tried successfully to limit numbers from 1 to 20 as well. I am sure various other number limits could also be set to the needs and preferences of your learner. Now, one thing I noticed when my students played were their fixation on a big boss as a level challenge. This meant that Absolute Zero was always cast as the big boss, but he comes in at a middleweight 47, which is not that big. The largest number is 216, but 47 is a challenging number to take down since bonus powers cannot be played against Absolute Zero. So this is actually confusing when players could not take down Absolute Zero. He then can infiltrate the barricade, but that does not trigger the win-lose condition of the game. The designers have taken note of it because they've also added some ways to score as a team, depending on whether all the villains were taken down before they broke the barricade, whether or not the barricade was broken, but no villains intercepted, and whether or not Absolute Zero was taken out. One thing I might try in the future is to increase the value options that players have to make equations. When playing with 2-player teams, we've used UNO number cards from 1 to 6 as I shared before, but then also the whole deck from 1 to 10. When playing with smaller, cozier groups, you can use a D8, a D10, or even maybe a D12 to encourage arithmetic in larger values as well. Make sure to check out the video on Zeus on the Loose or Melbournes in the links below or at the end of this video. And I will see you in a future one.